Welcome. We're going to be talking about rehabbing today, and we're going to be talking about some of the things that you should be looking at with rehabs. My name is John Dessauer, and one of the things that I've been associated with in my 13, 14 years of real estate investing is a lot of rehab projects. And one of the things that you'll know about rehabbing, it's kind of like a jealous mistress. If you don't pay attention, not that I know about jealous mistresses, but if you don't pay attention to your rehab, it'll get away from you in both money and time. So you really want to make sure that when you're getting into rehab, you're focused, you're organized, you have a team, and you're fully aware of three things. First is time, next is knowledge, and the third is money. If you can focus on those three things in the rehab, I think you're going to be fine. But you've got to make sure that you're not only focused, you're aware, but you're organized in all three of those areas. Very, very critical. So, in talking about rehabs, I think, you've got to ask yourself the question, why would anybody want to do a rehab? Why would anybody want to do a rehab? Well, maybe it is because you're a masochist, maybe. I don't know. But you'll have to think about that yourself. But let me give you 12 reasons. 12 reasons why I think you want to consider doing a rehab, especially when you're in a market or a time in a business or real estate market cycle in which we're very near the bottom, which we are today in 2012. One of the things that I think is important for all investors to think about today is not only natural appreciation, in other words, the increase in value over time of our real estate, but also forced appreciation. What are you doing on purpose to drive a piece of real estate's value? That's the true essence, by the way, of a real estate investor. We're doing things on purpose to drive value. Okay, so I think that's really important. Number one, quick cash. With real estate, it's not proportional, the money that you put in, to the amount of value that you get out of that. You see that a lot of times with real estate. They tell you to focus on bathrooms, kitchens, painting, cleaning up the property. Painting alone is a really quick way to increase the value. Let's say that you put in $2,000 in painting the place. That might increase the value by $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. So it's not proportional dollar for dollar of the money that you put in. A lot of the things that you rehab are quite like that. Number two, you might rehab to get more investors. Sometimes when you look at a property, it may not attract some of the investors that you're looking for. However, if you can envision or maybe even paint the picture for somebody else on a rehab property when it's completely done, that may be the very thing that attracts the investors that you need to buy that property. Or maybe even the bank that you're looking to get financing from. So very important there. Needed skills for future larger projects. I know somebody doing a rehab in Phoenix today of a 4-unit building, and this third idea here, needed skills for future larger projects, this particular investor is looking at doing bigger and larger things. So he's using the rehab right now to gain the skill set to improve his returns moving forward. And I think that is an investment not only in the property, but also in yourself. 2 to 3 to make 20. That's a kind of goes along with what I was just talking about. When you can implement some ideas on a property like painting, cleaning up, landscaping, new lighting, some very inexpensive ways to really increase the value of the property. Again, it's not dollar for dollar. Have an out when stuck. You might buy a property and find, I'm not able to flip this. It's not as desirable in the marketplace as I thought going in. However, if I do a little rehabbing, it may be more attractive to the marketplace. So that might be one of the outs when you're stuck on a property. Not time intensive. A lot of things that you could be doing in rehabs doesn't mean you're opening up walls and putting in a lot of the mechanicals, the air conditioning, the furnace, that type of thing. A lot of the rehabbing could be very light, like painting, lighting, landscaping, cleaning up the property. Easy to find. There's a lot of properties that need rehab. So that particular type of asset is really easy to find in the marketplace. So that's something that you want to look for out in the marketplace. In other words, you're going to have less time finding something that needs rehab compared to something that doesn't, and that's perfect. Okay? And we have just heard from the audience that there's less competition for those type properties. Not a lot of people are willing to take on a rehab, or maybe they think it's more than what they can handle. And that's absolutely true. Fill free time by exercising. I know this particular investor in Phoenix seems to have be more fit today than he was 2 or 3 months ago because of the work they've been doing on the property. So look at it as a way of exercise. You're adding value to the property. Very, very important. Remember, as real estate investors, we're doing something on purpose to drive its value. Doing something on purpose to drive its value. With a rehab project, you don't need to be a professional salesperson. When you're rehabbing the project and you compare that to a project that's not rehabbed, a lot of times that rehab itself will take over that sales process for you. You've probably seen houses that you've driven down the street and they're very neat, they're painted, landscaped. That attracts more people than one next door, let's say, that's not rehabbed. So it's helping you in the sales process with that. Remodel the best items to make huge gains quickly. Now, you've often heard that when you're focused on single-family houses, condominiums, that type of thing, you should focus on kitchens and bathrooms. Why is that? That's what sells the house because of what? That's the first place people go? Okay, what else? The first place the women look? Okay, thanks, Sean, for that. What else? What's that? They're the most used. I'm looking for one word in particular. Appreciation? No? They're expensive. They're expensive? Emotion. I'm looking for that word emotion because emotion is what sells on the residential side. They sell by emotion. Most people that are buying single-family houses in today's world are not investors. They're families looking for 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses, or they're owner-occupants. So I want you to think about that. Remodel the best items to make huge gains quickly. Typically, that's things like curb appeal, kitchens, and bathrooms. Write that down. Curb appeal, kitchens, and bathrooms. And it's fun. It's fun. Now, you will come across some of the craziest things. One of my first rehabs that I ever did was a HUD foreclosure, housing and urban development. And I remember walking into the home that I had just bought for the first time, and it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. And typically these homes, because they've gone through foreclosure, the plumbing gets winterized, and sometimes they're a little bit dilapidated and things like that. But I remember walking down the main hallway of the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and in the middle of the hallway they had the scuttle to get to the attic. Hanging from the scuttle was nothing more than a colostomy bag. Are we talking fun or what? Yeah, that's right. So you do come across the craziest things, but I can tell you, for me, I really get caught up in the idea of taking a property and having a vision with it. Every property that we looked at yesterday, I always tried to, the initial thing that I did was I walked out by the street, I took a picture of it, and then I looked at it and I tried to get a vision of what it could be. And when you complete that idea of what it could be through rehabbing, it's really fun. For me anyway, it's really fun. Now, I don't necessarily do all the work. I want my team possibly to do that. But I like creating, designing the rooms, putting the colors in, what type of floor, do we put crown molding in? That stuff to me is fun. And when you can complete that with that particular investment, That's what attracts me most to that. And it's rewarding. It's a great way to add forced appreciation to your real estate. And I can't hit on that enough. As real estate investors, you have to ask yourself the question, what am I doing to this investment to drive value on purpose, not on accident? During the real estate boom of 05, 06, 07, we had people buying property, and a year might go by and that property might be worth 10 to 20% more without the investor doing anything to it. That is kind of like speculating in the marketplace. As real estate investors, professional ones, we don't speculate. We do things on purpose to drive the value of our assets. And that takes some effort, that takes some work, but that's where it really becomes rewarding. Some disadvantages. I can't give you all the advantages without giving you disadvantages, okay? So here are some disadvantages. Number one, it's not passive income. You're going to have to actually do something to the property yourself, quite possibly, to drive that value, okay? More chances for surprises when you start opening walls and start getting into construction projects. Not only does the time component get away from you, but so does your cost, okay? So you might be, as they say, opening up a can of worms, so to speak. It can be stressful. This particular person that's rehabbing this 4-unit in Phoenix that I keep talking about, I've noticed over the last couple of months, his hair seems a little grayer. So, you've got to make sure that you're managing that stress. There is a lot to rehabbing. And if you don't have a system and you don't have a team in place and you're not managing the financial part of it and the time part of it, it can get away from you, it can get stressful. So make sure that you're managing that overall thing.